Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
Oh, yeah. What's up, Vegas? Hope we bought some extra tissues. A lot of people very upset last night. Game 7 didn't go so well for the Vegas Golden Knights. Usually, to start off this show, we talk about the hottest news topic of the day. Usually that's political. It could be anything. Today, it's going to be about the Vegas Golden Knights. Clearly the biggest story of the day, not just locally, but nationally, too. It was a huge story last night, and we have some great guests to break down this game and the travesty that took place in the third period with the 5-minute major call. Daniel Negreanu will be joining us here in just a few minutes, WSOP poker champion and super Vegas Golden Knights fan, and he is very knowledgeable. I know he's pretty upset about that call. So Daniel will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Chris Matthews from Channel 8 Sports will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. He was there in San Jose covering the game. What was that like? The atmosphere and everything that transpired. So Chris will be joining us in a little bit. Gary Lawless, who does a fantastic job both radio and TV covering the Vegas Golden Knights. I want to get his thoughts on last night. He'll be joining us in hour number 2, and Jamison Welsh from Drive Time Sports will be joining us in hour number 2 as well. So like I said, we have a loaded show. Nobody will be covering the game last night better than us today, and let's just get right down to it. If you were watching the game, or if you weren't, if you were living under a rock, the Vegas Golden Knights are up 3-0 midway through the third period. There's not one player, coach, or fan, if they're being honest, that would tell you that they thought that San Jose was going to come back and win that game. Vegas was completely in control, and Marc-Andre Fleury was just fantastic up to that point. 3-0. Then controversy strikes, right? Things got a little, well, I don't know, bad for Vegas quickly. Cody Eakin cross-checking Pavelski after a face-off. You see plays like that happen all the time in hockey. He loses his balance. He falls down. Keep in mind, it was not a cross-check to the face. He falls down. His head hits the ice. He's bleeding. It looks really bad. He loses consciousness for a little bit. The refs didn't even initially call a penalty. They didn't even initially call a penalty. If he doesn't fall down and there's not blood, I guarantee you there wouldn't even been a 2-minute minor. But they didn't give him a 2-minute minor. They throw Cody Eakin out of the game, and they call a 5-minute major. Nobody who understands hockey, nobody who covers the sport that is not biased would tell you that that was the right call. It was the wrong call, and it changed the outcome of the game. Why? Because the Vegas Golden Knights gave up 4 goals in that 5-minute penalty. They lose the lead. Yes, Marchessault did tie the score. Yes, it did go to overtime. They lose in overtime. I'm telling you right now, anyone who disagrees with the fact that that did not control the outcome of this game, you are ridiculous. Marchessault's comments after the game, I can't really air them because there's a lot of F words in there. But he says he hopes Joe Pavelski's okay. You never want to see something bad like that happen, but it's an effing joke. You called 5 minutes for that. Why don't you have a replay for that? Change the whole outcome of the game. I completely agree with him. Could not agree with him more. He was asked if it was stolen away. He said yes. It was 3-0 with, 10, 12 minutes left. They scored 4 goals on the power play. They came up clutch. They fed off the bad call. They came up 4-3. They got a big goal in overtime. Got to give them credit. They're a great hockey team, but it's embarrassing. Could not agree with Marchessault more. Coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, Gerard Gallant, said it was an awful call. We've all seen it. It's too bad we end up losing because of that, because we were in control of the hockey game. He also went on to say, you know what? Last year we were in the Stanley Cup final. It was a tough loss. Tonight was tougher. And I'm sure all of you were, many of you, I would imagine, were watching the game last night. I have been following hockey since I was 10 years old. I had Hartford Whalers season tickets with my dad. I've been a hockey fan for most of my life. I have never seen anything like that before, ever. In a Game 7. It'd be one thing if it was a regular season game. We are talking about Game 7 of the NHL playoffs in the first round. Clearly, there was no intent by Cody Eakin to hurt Pavelski. Clearly, there was no intent. And the game was stolen. And I don't want to hear, I'm going to give a couple quotes here for a couple members of the media in Las Vegas. I'm not even going to mention their names because they don't, quite frankly, they don't even deserve it. Just go on my Twitter page. You'll see who said this. Somebody on Twitter said, arguing that who works in the media in this town, said, who cover the team, arguing that they should never have been in that situation doesn't excuse the former. Well, yeah, of course it doesn't. But nobody's making excuses for the fact they gave up 4 goals in 5 minutes. Yeah, it sucks. You would have hoped they'd maybe give up 1 or 2, but they shouldn't have been in that spot to begin with. So it's a stupid argument. Somebody else says, again, this is somebody in the media on social media, says the Golden Knights blew a 3-1 series lead. The Golden Knights gave up 4 goals in 5 minutes, and the Golden Knights had 18 minutes to score in OT. The refs did not end the Golden Knights season. I could not disagree more. They absolutely did. They absolutely stole this game away from the Golden Knights. And I have a feeling the guy we have with us on the line right now is probably going to agree with me. He's not only a tremendously knowledgeable hockey fan, he's a super fan of the Vegas Golden Knights, and, of course, WSOP champion Daniel Negreanu. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I can barely breathe.
I hear you, man. This is rough. All right, so let's start from square one. Obviously, you'll agree the Vegas Golden Knights were completely in control of this game, up 3-0. I don't think there was one person on the planet, even Sharks players, that thought they were going to win that game. Then you saw what transpired in the face-off. Describe to us what you think the ref should have done and why the ref did what he did.
So I just watched here in the Carolina-Washington game, and I tweeted a play that was actually identical to Eakin's, actually much worse, because it was higher to the face, and Eakin was hitting him in the belly button, not the throat.
Right.
No penalty, no call, because that's what it is. It's not really a penalty, especially in a Game 7, late in the game. When you look at the video on this play, the refs did not call a penalty. There was time that elapsed.
Right.
Nobody raised their hand. Nothing happened. All of a sudden, after an awkward fall with Stastny, he falls to the ice, and now there's blood. So now the referees, who didn't even see it, they didn't even see it, claim, I don't know, maybe his stick hit the head. I don't know, maybe they're guessing, and they issue a major and a game misconduct. Now, people that say, whatever, you're just supposed to kill it off. Well, first of all, you just kicked out one of our best penalty killers.
Sure,
right?
Cody Eakin, sure.
And you did it because without even seeing the play, just guessing. It would in that stage in the game with a 3-0 lead, it would have been less of a penalty if you just said, you know what, we're going to award you a goal. So it's 3-1.
You're right.
Okay?
No, you're right.
It's not as egregious as giving a 5-minute, because it's the only way to get in the game.
Yeah, let me stop you real quick and say even worse, Daniel. I'm sure you heard about this. Turk said that the ref went up to him and told him, quote, it was a cross-check to the face. That's a blatant lie. How do you lie and say something like that to Gallant?
Well, their lie is obvious because they didn't call a penalty. If there was a stick to the face, somebody would have raised their hand. There's 4 referees. When they all converge, you would think that some of them would have said, what'd you see? And nobody said that they saw something in the face, so how do you do that? I really hate this idea in this rule that based off it is a rule. It is, in fairness, it is a rule that, if there's an injury based off a cross-check, it's a major. But that's stupid, okay? The results shouldn't be based what's based on the infraction. Similar to high sticking. 2 minutes and then there's blood. It's 4 minutes. It makes literally no sense. It's one of the dumbest rules in hockey, and there's plenty of dumb ones.
There has to be intent. There has to be intent there.
Well, not only that. Listen, we spend 10 minutes, sometimes 4 or 5 minutes, looking at to see if an offside goal was 1 inch, whether the skate was off the blue line, right?
Sure.
So you spend all this time for that. You can't set up a rule where when you're giving a major penalty in a game misconduct, you take 20 seconds to actually look at the video and go, oh, actually, he did nothing of the sort. This isn't even a penalty. It's egregious.
That's a good point.
It's absurd that a goal coach can't go, guys, hold on. Look at the tape. This didn't happen. But Joe Thornton came over there, old graybeard, and he was yelling for 5.
Right. Yeah.
The fans started throwing stuff on the ice.
Which was ridiculous.
The referee made an emotional decision, clearly not based in logic, practicality, or any semblance of seeing something so egregious.
Do you agree with this too, Daniel? The fact that if Pavelski doesn't fall down, I don't even think they call a 2-minute. They don't call anything because it took them, 10 or 15 seconds to decide that they were going to call something. They didn't even see anything. So if he doesn't fall down, they don't call even a minor penalty.
Of course. So basically what Eakin did, and I got to say this in fairness, with a 3-0 lead, Eakin shouldn't have even done that. It's a very normal hockey play. I just saw it here in the Carolina game. A stick tap to the stomach. Pavelski embellished.
Sure.
This is why he fell backwards, okay? And I don't blame him for doing that. He's trying to draw a penalty, but he embellishes, leans back like, I've just been molested, right? Falls into Stastny, who's coming up the ice, now hits his head awkwardly on the ice, and all of a sudden we have a brouhaha based off of a guy who was trying to embellish. It's just an embarrassment for the league to see, this have like such a major effect. Like as I said, a major penalty here was far worse than just saying, you know what, you guys get a penalty shot.
In that type of situation in a Game 7, the rules need to change. Obviously, if it's a big call like that one, they have to be able to go to replay. And you said it best. They can check if you're a half an inch offside after a goal is scored. Why can't you check something like this? To me, that is completely and utterly ridiculous. So let me ask you this. You've been a fan of hockey your whole life, as have I, okay? I've never seen anything like this in a Game 7 in any sport, let alone what happened last night. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. I was in shock. The refs took this game away from the Knights. And what I can't stand, Daniel, is some people on social media and some people, San Jose fans saying, oh, stop crying. You had your chances. They were up 3-1. Stop crying. You were up 3-0. You gave up 4 goals. The bottom line is they would have won last night. Hands down, they would have won the hockey game, 95%. They would have won the game. We wouldn't be talking about the rest of the series. We'd be moving on to the Colorado Avalanche, right?
It's not 95. It's 99.8.
Yeah.
Really, you had 3-0 lead with 10 minutes to go. People say, oh, you had all your chances. Well, we did. We showed up in Game 6, played a really good game. You know what? Kudos to San Jose. They beat us. We controlled Game 7. We did everything you're supposed to do. You did everything right. With 10 minutes to go, you got a 3-goal lead. Looks pretty safe. And then out of their control, a referee tries to make a statement call, right? And just says, here, we're going to hand a major penalty. That was completely out of their hands. Now, some could say, as I did, well, Eakin shouldn't have even done that to give them any smoke. But, that's at most, if you want to call it, which most of the time you don't call it, especially in Game 7, most of 2 minutes. Cool, right. You get a goal. We're still up 3-1 with, 7 or 8 minutes to go,
Sure.
It's a tough pill to swallow. And, Gallant said it in his postgame. He said, they lost in the finals last year, which, obviously hurts. But this hurts way more because this was a series that was already won. And for all of a sudden to see one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in any sport.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. If you're just joining us, Danny Negreanu. So, I hate to have to break down this game because we know what the result would have been if the ref doesn't blow this call. But I thought they showed amazing resilience. I'm talking about the Vegas Golden Knights. Marchessault scores a goal with a minute to go, sends it into overtime, Daniel. I thought that was unbelievable resilience from this Vegas Golden Knights team. And then I think if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, obviously you're nervous because in overtime, one mistake, that's it, the game's over. But I still think at least I was feeling that the Knights were still going to win this game because they dominated this game from start to finish for the most part, except for 5 minutes on the power play, right?
Yeah, well, that last minute and a half, when they finally did get the goal with 47 seconds to go, they had about 3-4 really good chances. They could have scored. And after they scored with about 20 seconds left, they had another chance to put it away in regulation. Now, obviously going in overtime, both teams are tired. Pavelski's not there for San Jose. We're out Eakin. And in the overtime, I got to say, both teams looked kind of tired, but I thought Vegas looked a little more tired in some spots, and we were kind of chasing the puck a little bit. And in overtime, I thought San Jose probably took the play to us more so than we did to them. But it was nerve-wracking, and it was, it could have gone either way. It's just unfortunate that it even had to get to an overtime because, it's a game that was over.
So explain this to me. What do you say to some of these fans that are taking the other side and saying, it was a bad call, but the Knights blew it. They were up 3-1 in the series. That they had their chances. They had their opportunities. You give up 4 goals in 5 minutes on the power play. It's, you don't deserve to win the hockey game when you do. What do you say to fans like that?
Well, first of all, it's disingenuous, right? It's bullshit. They cannot defend that. There's just no chance, right? So, obviously giving up 4 goals in a power play is, tough. But here's what they're missing. First of all, we didn't have Bellemare in the lineup because we made a lineup change for Peary.
Right.
Now you just took one of our best penalty killers out in Eakin. And now we got to face, arguably one of the best power plays, in the league when they're clicking with Carlson and Burns or whatever.
Right.
And we're fatigued. We just played an overtime game. So, you get the momentum and the ball rolling. And as they did, and all of a sudden there was, a flurry of opportunities. I don't think they scored all those goals because we made huge mistakes. They executed and they were all timely and, they had the momentum on their side. So, people that want to say that or claim he tried to take his head off. I'm like, give me a break, okay? I just showed them the video evidence. Please show me what Cody Eakin did here that is so egregious. He literally stick tapped him in the midsection, right after a face-off, which again, I don't see why he even did that at that stage. You probably shouldn't have even.
He made a
bothered.
mistake. Give him 2 minutes. Then just give him 2 minutes. And at worst case scenario, they score a goal, and you're up 3-1.
The argument I'm hearing is people like putting Stastny into the mix, saying, "Oh, that's not all it was, though, because Stastny threw."
That's ridiculous. If anything, he took Stastny. He tried to take Stastny down with him. Yeah,
I mean, Stastny was just going towards the puck.
Yeah, that's insane.
An awkward collision.
Look, I don't want to say who said this, but a couple members of the media that actually are at the flagship that cover the Vegas Golden Knights, one of them said, quote, on social media, the refs did not end the Golden Knights season. Another person says, arguing that they should never have been in that situation doesn't excuse the former. I get so frustrated when I hear these things. I mean, how would you react to something like that? Maybe I react a little bit more than some others would. But
well, I mean, it's ridiculous. Listen, San Jose's a good team, guys. So, we were up 3-1. We did our job. We won. We split on the road, right? We come home. We win our home games. We're up 3-1. We go back to San Jose in a building where they're desperate. Okay, they win that game. Game 6, we did everything we possibly could to win that game. I mean, we absolutely dominated, right?
Yeah.
Game 7, we put ourselves in position to win up 3-0. So, what do you mean we shouldn't have even been in the situation? We're supposed to just automatically win Game 5? That was a tough one. Jones played well.
Absolutely.
San Jose had a good effort, but we didn't play poorly.
Yeah.
Game 6, we played great. So where exactly along the line are they trying to think that, we choked or blew it or something?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's completely and utterly ridiculous. Okay, so Daniel, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take all this anger and frustration. When you get to the World Series of Poker, just win 8 bracelets. Can you do that?
Yeah, you know what? I was telling my fiance now, because we were going to have if they made the conference final, which would have been likely with Colorado, I would have had an issue because I'm getting married on May 17th. And then I got the World Series coming up, which, if they're in the finals, that cuts into some of my play time. So now I'm cleared. That's the bright side for me, is I can be married in peace and have a good run at the World Series.
Well, listen, man, I wish you the best of luck in the WSOP. I hope you just take down 10 of them. Thank you for venting with me. We're going to continue to vent. Always appreciate your time, Daniel. I wish we could preview the Avalanche series with the Knights. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But, hey, man, there's always next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, people said, we've only been 2 years in the league. And people said, well, this team's never faced any adversity or pain or heartache. Well, I think we can say now that, in our second season, we certainly have felt something that most fans have never experienced.
Absolutely could not agree with you more. Daniel, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate it, my man. And congratulations on the upcoming wedding.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, take care. Daniel Negreanu, Vegas Golden Knights superfan. I'll take some calls on this. Daniel's fantastic. I could not agree more with everything he said. The number to call, I'll open up the phone lines. What did you think about this game last night? 257-5396. Again, 702-257-5396. I think the refs stole the game from the Vegas Golden Knights. That's exactly what I think. Again, 257-5396. Let's start with Chuck. Chuck, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I got a 3-part question. Number one,
sure.
How do you rate this with that? Was it the Rams and the Saints?
Well, it's funny, Chuck. It's funny you mentioned that because Marchessault was asked about that, and he was asked about, did the refs steal the game from you? He actually brought up the Saints. He said this is very similar to the Saints, and you know what? I agree with him. It's a same situation where if the ref doesn't blow a call, you win the game. Saints go to the Super Bowl. Now, this might not be the Super Bowl, but you never know where the Vegas Golden Knights would have come from here. They're a very, very good hockey team, certainly capable of winning a Stanley Cup. They would have played the Colorado Avalanche. They would have. The key thing here is they would have won the game last night if not for this blown call, Chuck. So I think it ranks right up there. I really do.
Second part on a gaming aspect, those people had the shark tickets that were deep in their pockets, and then presto, they pull them out.
Yeah,
that game was lost.
Yeah, no, you're right. You are absolutely right. That's a very good point.
I would guess that quite a few shark bettors actually ripped up their ticket before that happened.
It's quite possible. If somebody did, I'd love to hear from them. If they're listening in San Jose, KDON can be heard in San Jose, so I would love to hear from them. Chuck, what's your third question, Chuck?
Okay, this is a trivia. You probably know this, being a Hartford Whalers fan. What is the team now that used to be the Whalers?
The Carolina Hurricanes, of course, and several years after they leave Hartford, they win the Stanley Cup, so I was beyond pissed off, Chuck. Beyond.
Plus their inaugural year, didn't they make the playoffs?
Yeah, they did. And Hartford Whalers, I was a season ticket holder with my dad for 15 years. They didn't make the playoffs once. And then they leave, and then they make the playoffs. I was irate. But you know what? I'm glad that that coach who coached the Hartford Whalers back then, Maurice, is doing a fantastic job now. He's a good dude, and he is certainly a good coach. Thank you very much for calling in, Chuck. I really appreciate it. Let's get to some other calls. Let's go to, I believe we have another Chuck on the line. Chuck number 2. Chuck, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, big fella?
How's it going? What's on your mind?
Hey, listen. The Golden Knights remind me of Hillary Clinton.
Uh-oh. Why would you say
know
that?
Why?
Yeah. Why?
They want to blame it on the referees,
Oh,
Golden
come on.
Knights, and everyone else in Las Vegas, just like Hillary Clinton wants to blame the Russians.
All right. Well, let's try to let's try to leave Hillary out
Guess
of it.
what?
Yes.
Guess what?
Yes,
they
Chuck.
just didn't close the deal.
Okay.
They didn't work hard
Chuck?
enough to get it done.
Chuck, let me ask you a question, and let's try to leave politics out of this one for once in
Fire
my
away, brother.
Okay. What would have happened in that game last night if the ref didn't blow the call? What do you think would have happened?
Well, what would have happened if the Golden Knights would have won Game 6?
I asked you the question first, so please answer it. What would have happened if the ref didn't blow the call? Who would have won last night?
Who knows?
Oh, come on. Give me a break.
Hey, they scored 4 goals in 4 minutes.
On the
Who hell
power
knows what's
play.
gonna happen?
The score, okay, let's just say they call a 2-minute minor. Let's just say they score a goal. The score would be 3-1. You really think, Chuck, that the Knights wouldn't have won the game last night? Is that what you're trying to say?
The bottom line is they lost. I don't care what happened.
What do you mean you don't care what happened? The refs stole the game.
It wasn't just the power play. Their best defensive player was missing simultaneously.
Hey, instead of putting their heads down after they scored the first goal, they should have got together and said, let's stop this BS and let's get the job done.
So it's that easy.
They act like Hillary Clinton. They don't go to they don't go to Pennsylvania. They don't go to anywhere, and they should have sucked it up and won that game like professionals.
I don't understand what that has to do with Hillary Clinton. Okay, well, I completely disagree with you. I think if you know absolutely anything about hockey, you would agree with me and Danny Negreanu, but I appreciate the call. I don't appreciate you bringing up Hillary Clinton. I don't know what that has to do with the Vegas Golden Knights. 257-5396, the number to call. Joe, you're next. What's up? Uh-oh, we lost Joe. Joe has left the building. 257-5396. Go to Ed. Ed, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Ed?
Yeah, well, I mean, this hockey's controlled by the Russian mafia, and people like you would leave Putin alone and whatnot. Maybe things would go better, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
These hockey players are Russian or foreign or anyway.
What does that have? What does that have to do with the
game?
What is that?
So somehow this sports segment has turned political.
Ed,
very quickly.
Ed, with all due respect, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. What does Vladimir Putin have?
This is actually kind of an impressive spin, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, Ed. What'd you say?
A Russian player.
What are you talking about? We're talking about the game last night, Game 7. This has nothing to do with Vladimir Putin.
They just hire in a Russian Olympic champion player that's a good friend of Putin.
What does that have to do with a ref blowing a call last night? I'm trying to understand the correlation.
I mean, you can't pay off an official.
So you think the officials were paid off? Okay, well let's okay, sure. Let's discuss that.
Ed is convinced that there's a conspiracy theory. There's a conspiracy.
So Ed, let's just say you're right. If there was
the Knights are on the wrong side of it.
Let's just say that if you're right and there was a conspiracy theory, why would the game go to overtime? Why would they take that chance? You're making absolutely no sense.
Well, that's just like, did you see the British and Caribbean proposition bets?
Okay, Ed, you're
went to overtime.
Ed, with all due respect, you are completely and utterly out of your mind. I believe who's next? Brian? Brian is next, or Joe? Joe, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's up?
I'm sorry, I got disconnected.
That's okay, my friend.
I agree with you. I mean, I don't know what these guys are talking politics in a hockey game.
I don't get it either, yeah.
First of all, I understand. I know you keep saying the refs. Well, if the guy didn't get that hurt, I mean, you can blame the refs. I don't have replays on penalties, which they should.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. I mean, but you had a 5-minute major, so. But, in all honesty, you give up 4 power play goals in 4 minutes.
Well, it's 5 minutes. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I agree with you there, and you're right. If the player doesn't fall down and get hurt, they don't make the call. There's no question.
They don't call a major. But
I agree. Yeah.
But
yeah, I hear you, Joe. No, Joe, I don't disagree with you, my friend.
Also, another crazy stat is that the Knights were 31-0 when they were up by 2 goals going into the third period this year.
It's astronomical. Let's go to Dave next. Dave, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. Dave, how are you? Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. I equate it to you guys are football fans, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Do you remember the Bills and Oilers game in about 25 years ago, the wild card game?
I'm certainly not going to lie to you. I do not.
Okay. Well,
are you talking Frank Reich, Warren Moon?
Yeah, that one. So I was watching. I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I watched that game last night, and I had that same. I'm a big Bills fan. I had that same exact feeling that the Oilers were up 32 to 30. They were up 35-3 in the third quarter in that game, and lost the game, and it was the same exact thing.
Yeah, you just have that horrible taste in your mouth. You never want the refs, Dave, to control the outcome of a game. Certainly not in a Game 7. You know, it's one thing if it's a regular season game or maybe Game 1 or Game 2, but Game 7 with 10 minutes to go when the team is up 3-0, and I got buffoons that are calling in that are saying, well, you never know what would have happened if they, give me a break.
Yeah, when you take out the team's best defensive player and you make them play without one guy for 5 minutes after playing through a 2-period overtime game the game before, I mean, exhaustion just has to kick in at some point, and it did.
It's an unfortunate situation, Dave. It really is.
You could just feel it coming. I mean, I don't know why, but the first goal got scored so quick. I just in my heart, I just said, "Oh my God!"
No, you're right.
They're going to at least tie this game up here.
Yeah, you're right.
And they took the lead, and it was great on the Knights to actually have the fortitude.
Yeah, we just talked about that, Dave. No, you're right, Dave. Well said, Dave. Good call. I appreciate the phone call.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. I will get to more of your calls on the other side of the break, but before we do that, Chris Matthews from Channel 8, he was at the game last night. He's covered the Golden Knights all year. So we'll take some more of your calls, but Chris Matthews is going to be coming up first, and then we'll get to your calls. Peter, Brian, Dave, Matt, you guys are all on hold. We'll get to your calls when we come back, but I also want to get to Chris Matthews. So we'll get to Chris Matthews from Channel 8 as well. Gary Lawless will be joining us. We're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.